Hey guys, welcome to the pod.
The Pea Pod. I'm Ladle.
And I'm Peas.
And we have a full ladle of peas just for you.
So let's get to it. You don't have to do that every time.
I like to do it.
I do it every time. But what happens when we get a new, our own music? Then you'll just have to sing your own.
No, and then it'll be like. Yeah. And then I'll sing that.
Okay.
And then years down the road, I'll be like. And the original listeners will know. Exactly. Speaking of original listeners.
That was smooth. We're on all the platforms, remember. So if you're hearing this on Spotify or you're hearing this on Apple Podcasts or you're hearing this on YouTube, we are on all three. So go watch it. You can leave reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Ooh,
so go.
I didn't know that.
So go do 5-star reviews on all of them.
5-star reviews.
That's your only one that you can do.
Tell
a friend to tell a friend and post it everywhere. And
I don't think that song's a good song. So I'm sorry I said that.
Just if you like it, prove it.
Well, you don't have to prove anything, actually. If you just listen to it, that's amazing, and we're happy to have you here.
I agree.
So, spread the word. Anyway, today we're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 through 19.
That is correct.
Are we going all the way through 19?
It's the end of the chapter, so yeah.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. I had forgotten. 12 through 19, 1 Peter chapter 4. Take it away.
Okay. Peter says, verse 12, "Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief, or an evildoer, or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if the righteous is scarcely saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? Therefore, let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful Creator while doing good. That sounds really good.
That sounds really good.
Well, what do you think?
The first thing I thought of was today in our chapel. If you would like to go watch chapel, it is on
Moody Bible Institute
Moody
Chapel.
Bible Institute Chapel.
And then
you Google that, and then it's
the top link.
What's today's date?
The 5th of April.
The 5th of April. That one.
2024.
Dr. Redman talked about some stuff, and part of it was, we want to look cool, and you want them to say, she is cooking.
Were you there for that? He gets up
is
there,
fire.
He's talking about how some people want to live like people who go to the Grand Canyon to take pictures, and they stand right at the edge of the Grand Canyon and then take a selfie.
Make it look like they're like
falling in or whatever, right? And so a lot of Christians want to get as close to the world as they can without seeming too holy, but without seeming like they're totally of the world. And so he was like,
he did a very good job.
He did a very good job. And he said,
very well spoken.
You want somebody to say, she is cooking. And then we just lost it. And she's like, or she is fire.
Cause if you don't know if you don't know the lingo, if you say like, let him cook, it's supposed to be like, okay, let him go. Like he's popping off. He's doing his thing.
Used other things.
I know I used other lingo to describe the lingo, but that's older lingo.
It comes from a scene in Breaking Bad where Jesse says to Mr. White, he says, let him cook, because he's cooking meth. and they wouldn't let him cook the meth. And so Jesse yelled, "Let him cook," and that's where that comes from.
I did not.
Yes.
Anyway, with that, I thought about that when in verse where is it? 16. Yeah, if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. And how sometimes when we're suffering on behalf of God, we'll be like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be associated with that and think that it's going to help. Why would that help?
Yeah.
You're already going through it. Why would denying God in the process help you in any way, shape, or form?
Not to mention the verse before it says, if you're insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed.
Yeah.
And so if you believe that the word of God is true and you believe that that's true, then being persecuted or being, suffering as a Christian, that's a good thing. So let it out. Be like, now obviously you don't want to boast about it. Don't be like, hey, I'm suffering. Oh me, oh my. Like the Pharisees,
yeah. Boo Pharisees.
Boo Pharisees.
But yeah, you want to suffer well, which sounds stupid because you're like, how do you suffer well if you're suffering?
That's one of my favorite phrases.
And the answer to that is that if you're suffering and you say, this is what's happening, but it's okay because I am in God's hands, and you entrust him with that, like it says in verse 19, therefore let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful creator while doing good. You still got to do good, but you also got to trust that God, your creator, is going to take care of you whilst you are suffering, or else you're not suffering well. You're just suffering to be sad and never improve and grow. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get anywhere. It's like, I'm stuck in quicksand, but I'm not going to do anything to get out of it. I'm just going to sink and cry and sink and cry.
This is written to a bunch of churches that are being pretty heavily persecuted. And so a lot of what this does, so this is something that I clung to a lot during freshman year when I had my anxiety. And that is, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you as though something strange was happening to you. So he's saying, expect it. And now, if you think about this in the context of who he's writing to, being persecuted as a Christian in the early church, these people are being killed and tortured, and so he's saying, like, even when this stuff has happened to you, don't be surprised. This is literally he's in reference to what Jesus was saying, which is like, you're gonna be persecuted for my name, and they're gonna ask you to denounce me, and they're gonna say, you're bad, you shouldn't be doing this, but you should be glad to be suffering for my name because it's glorifying me. And it's, and so I think that's just a callback to Peter standing next to Jesus when he's saying this, and he goes, oh, so I'm supposed to expect this, right? And even now in in America, we are very blessed to not have a lot of like actual persecution. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to like some of the persecution that we do face with, the mass media and a lot of America saying, Christians are bad, homophobic, bigoted people who just want to, and also they just believe in this like magical sky daddy, whatever, like that kind of persecution. That's what they say. That kind of persecution is certainly not up to the same that they were facing, but it applies to this. Mm-hmm. And so,
sorry, that just
rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings. So when people start mocking you and pointing at you in the same way that they did to Jesus, you should be like don't celebrate it necessarily, but being like, okay, Jesus told me this was going to happen.
I am set apart.
And I'm set apart. This means that they know that I'm a Christian.
I'm different.
Exactly. And you should be happy about that. And what I was saying earlier was I clung to the fiery trial part because the anxiety felt like a really bad fiery trial, and I felt better when I could say that, I can expect it because it's something that is going to be testing me and my faith. And it did. And I came out on the other side stronger for it. But there's something that's quite confusing in the middle of this verse that I've never quite been able to understand, and that is Verse 17 says, For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, then what will be the outcome of those who do not obey the gospel of God? And so I'm pretty sure that the general meaning of that is it's time for the judgment to begin at the household of God. So Israel, that's the house of God. And if it begins with us, then what will be the outcome of those who do not obey with the gospel of God? So he's saying, like, if it begins with us, the judgment, like the people who did, who are his children, how much worse is it going to be for those who do not have safety in their salvation?
What will become of the ungodly and the sinner?
Exactly. That's why they had that. He follows that part up with the righteous is scarcely saved.
Mm-hmm. Well, he says that before.
Well, I know, but this quote
he follows that part. Oh, yes.
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 I
understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
But
And in verse 14, it says, if you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler.
mm-hmm.
Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. When you're suffering, sometimes it feels like you're alone. And I find myself in a pattern almost every time I'm going through something that's difficult or hard. And it's like if you're playing a game of Jenga and you have all the blocks in the tower and you're pulling them out.
Mm-hmm.
And you pull one out and the whole thing collapses. So something bad happens. You're already at kind of a breaking point. Somebody pulls the last straw.
The last
whole
brick.
thing collapses. You're going through it. You were already kind of going through it. You're a little wobbly. Now you're going through it. You're on the ground. You're crumbled. You're everywhere. And you can't pick yourself up. You're a wooden block. You do not have arms or opposable thumbs. So
or legs.
or literally anything else. So the only thing that can pick you up now is whoever is playing the game, which in my eyes would be God. And another way to put it would be like a hurricane. For example, the eye of the hurricane has been
the hurricane is quiet.
Is calm. It's peace. It's very like
not a lot's happening.
Yeah. Very what is the word I'm thinking of? Anyway, doesn't matter.
Refuge?
No. But you went through all this terrible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally the eye passes over and you have like a moment where you can stop and think. And it's not very long, but you're like now aware. All this stuff just happened and there's a whole crap load of stuff coming at
after,
me.
yeah.
And you kind of have this moment of like, what do I do? Like, and you have a choice, and you can either call out to God and be like the righteous, but what is to come of the people who do not call on God? We were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're suffering as a Christian and you do not call to God, you're suffering pointlessly, and you're now going to face this whole load of crap that's coming at you by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a load of crap.
Yeah.
So, would not recommend.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were drowning and somebody threw you a life preserver, and you didn't grab onto it. Why wouldn't you grab onto it?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a point of rest that you can gain from that life preserver. If you're drowning, you know those ring things, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They have a big rope attached to it.
Yep.
You toss it out, you grab onto it, they tow you in. That's how that works.
And while they're towing you in, you're still in the water. You're still in the storm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a picture of Jesus working actively through your suffering, even though you don't feel like he's doing anything.
Verse 19, therefore, let those who suffer according to God's will entrust their souls to a faithful creator while doing good. You got to do good. And two, you got to trust God that he's going to get you through that. Because if you're getting towed in, like you grab onto the life preserver, you're getting towed in, then you're like, oh, I don't know about this, and you let go, you're just gonna go back to drowning.
It's like if you were in a storm, like a horrible storm,
Mm-hmm.
and a life preserver came through the fog or the clouds, and you see the life preserver and you grab onto it, but you can't see what it's attached to, but you know it's starting to pull you. You're still in the storm and you can't see exactly where you're going, but you know you're being pulled to safety, and you have to trust that that's what's going to happen. And then when you get there,
Yeah.
you'll be out. And so people who just let go because they don't feel like they don't know where it's going, it means you're just gonna suffer through the storm until you die. You could either suffer through the storm until you get to safety, or you could suffer through the storm and then die.
Yeah.
And that's not cool.
And you can let go at any point in time. Or you can let him take you all the way to the dock
Mm-hmm.
and climb up on the dock and
Yep.
be okay.
Yep.
And you can learn a lot from just resting in God's sovereignty and knowing that I'm here. I know this is bad. I am trusting God with it. I still have some things I got to do. And I got to do them well. And there's still things I need to take care of. But ultimately, I'm letting God take care of me in that process. And I'm resting. I'm grabbing onto this life preserver, and I'm resting in the person who's towing me along. Because if I try and do more, I'm going to be so exhausted that I'm going to die right then and there. And it's going to be a help to no one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be flailing and look pretty dang stupid. And that's on that.
So if you're not clinging to a life preserver right now and you're drowning, you should try it, because Jesus will pull you through.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen every time. Try it, test it, see what happens, because I promise you it will. And if it doesn't, email us, and we'll tell you you're doing it wrong. But
Nope.
it'll work every time.
We might not
I promise.
be that brash, but sure.
No.
We'll say, let us help you,
Mm-hmm.
and we will pray for you
Mm-hmm.
and come alongside you as your brother and sister in Christ.
Your little and pea.
Your
Of Christ.
little and pea. Well, I think that wraps that up.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to Song of the Week,
Yes.
which I have,
Wonderful.
mind you. And it's from a movie, Across the Spider-Verse, not Into the Spider-Verse, the second one, Across the Spider-Verse, with the spot in Miles and all the spider
Gwen.
people.
And all the spider.
And it's called Am I Dreaming? And there's a really cool mashup that somebody made of like Sunflower by Post Malone with this over it, and it's really
From the
cool.
first one.
From the first movie, and they take the two songs from the two different movies, they put it together. It's really cool. If you can find that on, I don't know, Instagram or TikTok or something. But the actual song itself, that's the background of the mashup. That is,
Mhm.
that's its own.
The orchestral part.
Yeah, it's an orchestral piece, and it's like dun 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 dun, 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 dun. It's just really, really. It evokes emotion. Some would say, and it just like really gets you into like this like, oh, there's like a montage in the background, and I'm
Right.
seeing myself like driving down the road, and I'm really cool. But it's just very like, it's cool how music brings you into those things more. But it's also just a really good song, and I really enjoy it. And it kind of transitions into this like hip hop kind of rap sort of thing. And yeah.
Well, my song is a piece of music, and it is from the movie La La Land. It's the piece Planetarium, which is the shot of me and Sebastian. Not that one.
No?
No, that's me and Sebastian's theme. Planetarium is the. Anyway, so
I don't know the movie like you do.
there's that song, or that piece, I should say, during a part of the movie where me and Sebastian are kind of dancing through the planetarium, believe it or not. And this piece is just very, very pretty. It goes up and down. There's high points, low points. I mean, it's very, what's the word? It's very awesome, I guess. There's a word, not polarizing, but just very opposite ends. Anyway, and so that piece is it's very well versed for the part of the movie that it's in, and so that's part of what we wanted to talk about in terms of music stuff this week, and that is we've talked about how music can affect the brain, how it can affect us as people, but then we've also talked about what's the other thing that we talked about that kind of merges with this?
Emotions of music and movies.
Yeah, soundtracks. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Soundtracks, and then the emotion, how music can affect us. This is what we want to talk about is like how music can affect us in soundtracks, and how can it evoke motion and things like that. And so, Planetarium is one of those pieces that really gets you, because like a lot of people cry in movies just because of the music, and they don't even realize it. It's such a big impact on movies and on just different things, because they just sometimes they're just so well worked into the story. And so throughout the whole La La Land movie, it's very focused on those thematic things, and one of those themes is the one that you were just humming a second ago, the Me and the Sebastians theme. That one is in reference to, like, it's the main love theme, but then towards the end of the movie, when they're not together anymore and Sebastian wants to kind of remind her of the relationship, he plays this on stage, and they're the only two people in the room that understand it. And it's kind of a callback to that, and it's very emotionally, kind of brings up that, like, oh, it's sad, I wish, they hadn't, whatever. Spoilers, by the way. And I just kind of wanted to talk about different things like themes and such, like that can be so well used in movies and other things. And I think you have something you want to add to that.
Well, we were watching a movie last night, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the prequel to The Hunger Games, which is my favorite trilogy. And there is a point where Dr. Gall, who is like kind of the main antagonist, but also not. It's a complicated web in that movie,
because we're focusing on the main antagonist of the other movie.
Yeah.
So
you just got to know the context of the trilogy and then read the book before you watch the movie. It makes so much more sense. Anyway, but every time Dr. Gall is on screen, there's a very prominent bass clarinet melody line. And it's always a bass clarinet, every time. And when I was in the theaters watching this, my sister was with me. And it's not really her thing. It's my thing for sure. She just watched it because she knew that I wanted to go see it. And so this bass clarinet, like, melody line, like, is reoccurring every time. And I turned to her and I'm like, oh, Jessica, do you hear that? And she's like, what? And I'm like, oh my gosh, the bass clarinet and oh my goodness, it's so wow. And I'm like freaking out over here, and she's like, we're in a movie theater, please shut up. Like, she didn't say that to me, but you could definitely tell she was like, okay, whatever you say, dog. Because I kept talking about other things throughout the movie because I had read the book and she hadn't, so I was trying to over-explain. Anyway. And I just thought that was really cool because now every time that I hear bass clarinet in that movie, I know who's coming on screen. And it does that with all the different characters that you can pick up on if you pay enough attention. And I'm not going to spell it out for you. You can go watch it yourself. Go watch the movie. It's a good movie. Anyway, well, if you like that kind of stuff. But, and the same sort of thing happens, I mean, specific instruments and then melody lines. Like, if I go, you think of Princess Leia if you're a Star Wars fan. I mean, it's immediate association of this is that character. If I hear that in any, like,
context, really, any context,
you know what's about to happen.
Yep.
Like, Princess Leia is about to roll up. Like,
she's dead but alive.
Well, yeah. And so, you know that's gonna happen, and Indiana Jones is, like, very well known main theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's other parts of that are more intricate, and you can.
Oh, you
realize
mean
that
like the
soundtrack.
Indiana Jones soundtrack?
Yeah. But I'm not an Indiana Jones fan. That's my sister's department. So, but there's also like association of places, not just people, like Cantina Band in Star Wars. It's like immediate association. There's also different like themes for different planets that they're on, and like it's just so interesting. They use like different instruments for different planets, and it's so intricate. John Williams is a genius,
fantastic composer, absolutely,
and one of the best composers of our time,
and one of the best composers for that sort of thing. He's very much known for themed music.
Yeah,
his
epics.
Yes, and so when the trailer for the new Star Wars movie came out, the ninth one, they played this like super like like huge bass drum like movie type or trailer type music that had kind of a mashup of a lot of different themes. And I watched this video about how John Williams didn't write that piece. It was somebody who arranged that, because you can tell by the way that there weren't as much callback themes and just the way that it was
He's getting old.
played. I mean, he wrote the music for the whole 9th movie, but that trailer specifically, you could tell it wasn't a John Williams, like it was an arrangement, but it just wasn't something he wrote outright, because he's so well, like you could, music, you could, if you had a planet, like let's just keep going with the Star Wars thing. If you had a planet and it was like a snow, like Hoth, and you wanted to seem a little bit more eerie, more spooky, every time you went to that, you would play some of like low brass melody stuff, or like some just very, like every time you go there, even if there's positive things happening, you could make these things feel different. And I think of like even like movies where like something good is about to happen and then they plug it in or they do the thing and the music hasn't changed. Like, okay, Back to the Future, right? There's a scene in Back to the Future where I'm trying to think now, where Marty goes back to his timeline, but the music doesn't invoke the fact that something successful has happened. Visually, you're understanding that what just happened was supposed to happen, but something's off. The music's not quite right, and you can pick up on that even if you don't realize it. And like when you think of like again with the Star Wars thing, like before Anakin ever even became Darth Vader, before he put the suit on, you can hear his like da 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 do da da do da do like in the background of certain things, like sort of like a foreshadowing, right? And you can almost notice that the second or third time you watch a movie, because you pick up on most of it, but you don't realize how much it's pointing out to it until the other times you watch it. And I noticed that with Back to the Future. I noticed that with La La Land. I noticed that with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All my favorite movies. Yeah. You notice different things that weren't really there. What is it that you wanted to say about advertisements?
Oh, with advertising, you get into, I mean, in my intro to communications class right now, we're talking about advertisement, and I mean just TV in general, and what you watch it all affects you. And so people used to, the satanic panic of the television is from Satan. Yeah. And a girl in my class was like, my great-grandfather bought this TV, brought it home, and he turned it on and he immediately hated it, and he took it out in the yard and he shot it.
Dang.
That's crazy. But and we watched this other video that was from a movie from like 1970 or 80. It was early
1987, I think. Are you talking about the mass media?
This is
mass media. Or the guy did the whole monologue about how the producer, the guy who owned the television company, had changed, and now it was just going to be about controlling, and he had a heart attack and died right there. Yeah. Yes, I remember what you're talking about.
So what you hear is affecting you, and all these major businesses are the only people who own.
Maniacs, that's what it is.
All these big companies, corporations are the only ones who own it, so they can put whatever in your mind that they want you to know and hear and think and feel.
Mhm.
And music plays into that because I don't know if you've ever seen like what is the commercial for the pets? Is it like the AS?
It's an animal shelter of some sort with the Sarah
animal shelter
McLaughlin or
of
whatever
some
her name
sort.
is.
But it's like in the arms of the angels.
And the dogs are like,
And the dogs are behind a fence in the snow, and they're like,
do the thing with your lip. Yeah.
I hate that so much. And they're really sad, and you're like, oh, I need to go get that
For
dog.
just pennies a day, you could save this dog.
And it's like, you ain't helping that dog with a penny a day. You're helping their corporation. And it's meant to invoke emotion. If you put a happy soundtrack behind that sad-looking dog, you're just going to be like, oh,
A dog.
dog in the snow behind a fence. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you put that sad music, it invokes this emotion in you that you're like, oh, I need to go save that dog.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, and it's the same thing if I go, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Now you're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's. They know. They know what they're doing. And it's like these earworms that get stuck in your head that are like, okay, now I'm thinking of Red Robin.
Okay, well, how
and
about
the whole world said, yum. Like, it's the lyric associated with the tune. And you can, yeah, farmers. It's like all these things that, whatever tune or thing that you write, you can choose what people feel, basically. You're
and
like,
that could be used for good or for bad.
pick an emotion.
Literally?
I mean, no,
Oh.
but like you play something in a certain, like in a minor key, you feel sad. You play something that is more brassy, you're going to feel power.
That's why. Sorry.
Like,
go on.
You play something that's with a flute, you feel dainty and cute. Like, it's not only just like what key or mode or whatever you're in, if you understand that, it's also what instrument you're using and like all like, and there's, even with different parts of the world, there's different instruments that are used and different instruments that aren't used in different parts of the world. So if you hear something with, I don't know. Oh.
I didn't mean to play that. Go on.
Okay.
I was
If
gonna
you
make
hear
it-
something with a banjo, you're thinking, I'm down south and I'm with the bluegrass.
Yeah.
And you know that other parts of the world don't use a banjo. Like, ever.
Mhm.
It's a very, like, American thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like what instruments you choose, how you choose to use them. There's like special techniques and stuff. I was watching a video on special techniques on the flute today, and it was very interesting. And I'll have to show it to you after this. But it's like special techniques that are only used in certain like cultures and stuff. And just how specific you can get with that kind of stuff, and how people know. There's people who know all of that, like John Williams, and then they're like, okay, this is what I'm about to do. Anyway, and they write this masterful piece of music that makes you feel like you're in the middle of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a scenario, but I don't have one. You're in the middle of a Russian winter, and they can make you. And I've brought out the Russian in peace. Anyway, but you can feel like you're in a certain place or anything like that, and you can create a whole fantasy world and put a soundtrack to it. And now that's a place.
You could create a whole fantasy world just by the soundtrack alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, yeah, that's all I meant. But I have two things left to say on this.
Okay.
Because you were saying like you could pick anything in any key, whatever. This Most people, when I play that in a room, they all get sad and they say, oh. But when he is playing this, when Sebastian is playing that theme in the movie, nothing bad has happened. He's not even fallen in love with Mia yet. This is just something he's playing. Mm-hmm. But because of the end of the movie and the invocation that it has with the sadness of the breakup or whatever, that's what people now think of because it's got that minor key, right? So I just think that's really interesting because the intent of the song is not particularly sadness, but that's what everybody thinks of. The last thing was a great way to kind of sum all this up, or way that I think, the first thing when I think of themes and I think of ways that movies use them is the Peter and the Wolf piece of music by Tchaikovsky. That's what it is. No, it's not Tchaikovsky. I thought it was. Leonard Bernstein, the version that I have it on vinyl and I can find it on my phone. He narrates it, and if you know the story Peter and the Wolf, it is sometimes acted out on stage, but most of the time it's just the orchestra. And so they've got this, like you have the narrator painting scenes, but all of the instruments are dedicated to certain characters. And so the beginning of the piece usually is where the narrator goes, what is this animal? Right? And you know that that's the cat because it's the clarinet. Very smooth, stockery. And it's a very well-written piece. It's a perfect way to show that each instrument has a character and you know what's happening, who's where, when each plays. So there you go on that.
Yeah. And something I wonder is, like, we have all these soundtracks and stuff, but how much does that take away from our everyday experiences?
Mm-hmm.
And how much do we lose because of that? And, like, how much, like, you have now, currently in our day and age, you have way more people suffering with, like, depression and feeling like nothingness all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wonders, is that because of we're being pushed to feel all these things all the time whenever we pick up one of these or watch a movie or do whatever? I mean, anytime you look at a screen, almost there's some sort of music coming out. All the
vertical scrolling, the videos, TikToks, Reels, that always has music or something behind it. I mean,
and we could get into this another time, but like what colors are displayed and all that stuff. Yeah. That's the
whole class of intermediate communications. At least the back half of it is all about that stuff.
Yeah. And I think to myself, I wonder, like, I mean, did I already tell you about the girl in my class?
No.
Okay. There was a girl in my class who's like, my grandfather bought a TV. My great-grandfather.
Yes, you did.
I already said that.
You just did. You did just say that.
I did just say that.
I thought you were thinking of your project. Or did you say that before we even started? You were talking about... what you talking about, a girl, right? Yeah, I don't remember. You were talking about some girl that was...
I'm just going to cut all that.
Yeah.
What was it? You did say something about a girl.
She was talking about her project, but that's not something we're going to put on the show.
No.
I know, but we weren't. We were talking about the project.
Anyway,
on here.
It doesn't matter.
Weren't we? You were talking about a girl, but you did already say the thing about shooting the TV.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Okay. Don't worry.
Then did I already say all of this?
No.
What were you going to say then?
What was the thing that you were saying about the girl in your class who said... I don't remember, but you definitely did mention a girl in your class on the recording, and I don't remember why.
Anyway. In my class, we're talking about all the advertisement stuff, but also in the how it makes you feel and all this stuff that I just have mentioned. But I wonder what it would be like if there was no TV or anything except for live music, live shows.
Yeah, like how it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like how much more depth of emotion you would feel in everyday life, even because you don't have this telling you how to feel all the time. And think.
You just listen to music less. It's like when...
There's no soundtrack to life.
Right. When you listen to... Or like if you only had a steak once a year, like you would really... And you liked steak, you would really love steak every time you had it. But if you had steak once a week or twice a week, it would, I mean, eventually it would become mundane. I mean, a lot of people don't drink water and say, God, I just love water. It's just, it tastes so good. Like, it's great. Obviously, I love water too, but we drink water every day. We should. And so when you go back to a time where most of the musical things that you ingest were symphonies you went and saw or plays, operas, those things are very sparing, and you didn't have the ability to just flip on Spotify and listen to any song you wanted forever. So
and so I just wonder if this generation's sense of like everything is mundane and lack of attention even and all of that is in part because of the fact that when we're not looking at a screen, we aren't entertained, and therefore we're bored.
Yeah. I really do struggle with that sometimes, and it really stinks.
Yeah. And so we lose all of these different hobbies and, old things that aren't actually that old. They're were cool 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years isn't actually that long.
I know. I wasn't alive 20 years ago.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though?
Yep.
And, 20 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, that was nothing. 20 years is a blip in the
system.
A blip in the timeline.
A blip in the
a drop in the ocean.
No, what's a blip in the matrix? A blip in the
glitch in the matrix is
I know
phrase.
I know, but I'm thinking of a blip in the
Never seen the Matrix.
I haven't either. Don't tell Cameron all that though, because he brings it up so often. And he's like, "Have you ever seen it?" I was like, "Well, I understand the gist." And he goes, "No, it's not the same. It's not the same. You have to see it. You have to see the whole thing." And I'm like, "I know. I understand the whole okay, he's like, he won't accept the fact that I understand."
No, I feel like I need to watch the Matrix.
You probably should before he brings it up again, because he brought it up almost every other class. And he's like, "Anybody? I can't remember. Have you seen the Matrix?" I was like, "I know the idea." He's like, "Doesn't count."
No. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is 100 years ago, people didn't have nearly as much of this mental illness, mental disorders, that kind of stuff. And now that we have all these screens and everything, how many of the kids, you can look at the statistics.
How much of that is really based on music?
Yeah.
Because we know that technology is killing everyone, literally.
Yeah.
But how much of that is music? Because that's not something that nobody would ever
If you took the music out of all of your media that you're intaking,
nobody would watch it.
I don't think it'd be nearly as attractive and entertaining.
That's why you have these stupid, even the sounds that I put on the shorts that I make, are just the classic, the do 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 do, right? That's not a good song. That doesn't sound good to me. I don't love it. But it's on every single video, and it just fills the space.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's very playful.
Yes, and this could even be called back to when we talked about the poop brownie and how media, when we consume media, it affects us. We could call back to that whole episode. This is the same thing. You listen to music in the background of every video and it's saying horrible, horrible things. It's going to sneak into your vocabulary and it's going to sneak into the way you think, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could belabor this point for our lifetime, but you're right. That is something interesting that we should maybe research.
Food for thought.
Food for thought. So, food, do you like grapes? Because I like grapes, and I like green grapes, actually.
Yeah, I can't with you.
I prefer a green grape over a red grape any day, in fact, because I could say that I think that red grapes are stickier. I can't do this alone. You got to help me out here.
You gotta stop saying funny things.
Well, that's the point.
I'm not the biggest grape fan, but I do prefer red grapes.
Why?
I think they taste better.
Why?
Wine. No, I'm just kidding.
Can you
I'm
make
kidding.
wine out of green grapes?
Yeah, isn't that what white wine is?
Yeah.
It's made from green grapes, and then the red wine is made out of red grapes. That's why it's more bitter most of the time.
Whoa.
It's different taste. Not that I know anything about wine, because I don't.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I just hear grape juice over and over again. Well, the reason that I like green grapes better is because they're more attractive. First of all, they're green and they're solid. Like some of the red ones can
What
be like
kind of juice do you drink in church? Not the green grape juice.
What kind of juice do you drink at New Year's?
The red, because I like it better. I buy the red for that reason, because I like it better.
We drink the white stuff.
At Christmas, the red stuff. At New Year's, the red stuff.
Anyway, so I think they're more attractive. But I just think they aren't as bitter.
I don't think green grapes are as attractive. I think there's the one. Okay, I will say this. There's that trend right now that if you take green grapes, you put them on a stick and you twist them in sugar or something, and they look really beautiful. And apparently they taste good. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called. It's a different cultural food thing, not from the United States, but it's a trend right now in the United States. Anyway, regardless, that's the only thing that I like is their visual effects. But I like red grapes as well for visual, because you can't. When I think of classic grape, there used to be like this stained glass grapevine thing that hung in my kitchen. That was like a bundle of
grapes.
Red
What
grapes.
do you call that? A bundle? What do you call that? Like a bushel?
We're about to get educated about grapes right now.
Okay. Do this.
Yep.
Cluster.
A cluster?
cluster of
Did I
grapes.
say cluster?
No. Cluster of grapes. Thank you.
PJ.
PJ.
Okay, well, a cluster of grapes, yes, is usually red when I think of a... I'm assuming that's what you're going to
Yeah.
say. The stained glass one is red. You're right.
And
In-
everybody's mom had them in their kitchen.
Yeah, my mom had them in our kitchen. So red grapes
But
remind
now-
you of your mother, and that's why you don't like them. Oh.
We need a dun 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 soundbite on our thing.
I'm just kidding. That's not true. I'm sure. And
That's the
maybe it
closest that we
is.
have.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Best I can do.
I'm just kidding. You do. You love your mother.
I love
you
my mother.
You like your mother very much.
I do.
I do too.
Okay.
I just want to make that known.
Okay.
Anyway,
So cut open a grape, right? What does the inside of a red grape look like? Weird and brown.
it's like purple.
Cut open a green grape. Beautiful, almost clear.
It's like white.
Juicy, white. It's perfect. Let me tell you something. I think green grapes taste better when you cut them open. I used to have a little bushel of grapes and I'd cut them all in half and they would taste better after you ate them. I don't know why. But I felt that way.
That's not real.
It is real. It's for real.
That's a placebo.
It might be. Honestly, it might be a placebo effect. I don't think that they really do taste any different cut open. But I've had a conversation with other people that have said it does in fact taste better when it's cut open. Red grapes are usually smaller, in my opinion, in my observation. And therefore more bitter.
I think I
And
just have better memories associated with red grapes.
I have better memories associated with green grapes. And I
With
don't know
green
why.
grapes, they're always so sour and
That's,
and-
I think, the
and-
other way.
no.
Now, here's the thing.
My green grapes are always sour and they always dry my mouth out and I just don't like that.
There's a margin of natural, like, okay, 2-3 batches of green grapes are going to taste different. So one batches of those green grapes might be better than the other. Same with red. There could be a sweeter version of red grapes than there are in green. I just think on the whole, based on the amount of times that I've had grapes, which is a decent amount, because I'm a grape connoisseur.
I
you know
like
what I mean?
grapes.
You might say I like grapes.
That's what that just.
And so I find that the greens are a little bit less sour. I have had sour green grapes, absolutely.
I just don't like green grapes. I think it's the visual for me. I just like.
Over everything, you think they look worse?
Yeah. I think they look like boogers.
Wow.
It's the color of a booger. That's literally what it is.
If your boogers are that vibrant green,
You need
need to be.
medicine for a sinus infection because that's what you
You're
have.
sneezing. You're sneezing radioactive snot.
No. The color of a green grape is the color of snot, and that is just what it is. And the color of a red grape is just, I mean, it's not actually red though.
It's purplish.
It's like purple. So I don't know who called it a red grape, but
Yeah, because I can think of a red grape, but when I think of like purple grapes, like the grape flavor soda, it's purple.
the grapes themselves are purple. Whoever
know.
named that
I
was
don't know.
colorblind.
Yes,
They said red, and everybody else said purple. But we'll call it red for you, buddy.
Yeah, I just realized that they are definitely very purple most of the time.
Yeah, but red grapes.
Blueberries are purple too.
Blueberries are a dark purple that could also be interpreted as blue or indigo, some would say.
Violet.
Not violet, indigo.
Okay, all colors that are named slightly different are the same to me. Violet, indigo, purple,
That just made
all
me
the
think
same.
of how angered I am by the Rainbow Song, because red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, and then they changed
Who
it.
said that? Indigo and violet.
Yeah, they changed it. And they said red, orange, yellow, green, blue,
Indigo,
and
violet. Because
violet.
it splits the purple into two different sections.
Why does the purple need two different sections? Why don't all the other colors have two different sections? Because it's purple. They're both purple.
That's what I just said, but you told me that wasn't true. I just said indigo, violet the same, and you said no.
They both fall under the category of purple.
Yeah.
But they're not the same color.
Okay.
A blueberry is indigo, not violet, but it is also purple, and so is a grape.
The bad ones.
The good ones.
The good ones are green. Good green. Come on, it's alliteration.
But the Rainbow Song is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple.
I've never heard anybody say purple. I'm sorry. I've seen
My entire upbringing, my childhood, I don't know if this is a Mandela effect once again, but red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple.
I have seen rainbows that have solid purple at the bottom, but I've also heard more what's the word? More frequently indigo and violet.
And it's just so frustrating.
Now,
Why didn't
technically,
it change to that?
here's the
Why
thing.
was I the dumb kid who didn't know that it was indigo and violet?
With rainbows, you're supposed to go from red to purple, and it's supposed to fade the whole way. Red slowly turns into yellow, which slowly turns
Orange, you
into
mean.
or orange, which it all
Yellow to green to
right.
blue
It all
to
slowly
purple.
fades into things. If you look at the purple, it turns into purple, but then it gets lighter again, and by the time the end of the purple, it's violet. So you could say that there were all the colors are within that rainbow spectrum, but you just have to zoom in and see as they change. So violet is in there. It's just at the end, and you could either just call it purple or call it indigo and violet.
I'll call it purple.
Well, look, we've established that green grapes are better and that it's purple. How about that? We'll compromise on that.
No.
Green grapes are best, and it's called purple. Boom. All
Red
done.
grapes are the best.
And it's indigo and violet.
Purple.
Look, you can only have two.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah, I
You
can only have two.
one. You can only have one.
You're
No.
so right.
No, you
Good
can only have
job.
one.
You have been promoted.
Whatever, dude.
I'm right. Anyway.
Anyway, that's all I have for grapes and colors.
Well, I think that brings us to a
Hearty
that's a wrap.
conclusion of good green grapes and
good red grapes.
good green grapes. It already
We love
alliterates
red grapes. Right, guys?
radical red grapes.
Anyway, we will see you next week. But we are thankful for your presence here this week, for listening. We are here because of you, for viewers like you.
Thank you.
I don't know if we're going to get copyright striked for that, but it's PBS. We should
PBS
be
would
fine.
be like, Cool.
For viewers like you. Thank you.
Anyway, come back next week for another heaping healthy ladle of peas. We will see you guys later. Bye, guys.